Welcome back. Today marks 100 days of Pope Leo's papacy. The first American pope has been since focused on closing divides in the church, the perils of artificial intelligence, and tightening financial transparency regulations in the church. For more, we're joined by Father Provincial Superior of the Marian Fathers of the Immaculate Conception, Father Chris Alar. Welcome, Father.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us today. How has Pope Leo established credibility and goodwill in his first 100 days?
Well, I think most are saying by avoiding polemics. He's not taken the route of spontaneous news interviews and comments off the cuff. He's been more calculated in his first 100 days. Now, remember, it's different than our U.S. presidency, where it's only 4 years. His is for life. And so we have the tendency to try to view the 100 days as this kind of benchmark. But he's much more calculated. He's chosen to listen, to dialogue, and continue this continuity from the previous popes. And so, yes, he's addressed issues like Ukraine, the environment, the youth has been very important. But he's brought less work towards like executive orders and actions and more towards listening.
Well, that's listening and dialogue is always great things. He also appears to be very media savvy from my perspective, and you kind of address that as well. Now, in his public addresses, the Pope Leo frequently addresses the youth directly. Recently, at a Holy Year celebration, Pope Leo told the young people they were, quote, the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Respond to his comments, please.
Yes, and in fact, that's what a lot of people like about him is he's going back to the Gospels, he's going back to the references of Christ, and being fluent in English, Spanish, and Italian, he reached the vast majority of youth when he speaks, and so that's a very positive. He's they did a survey in June. He's more popular than the 14 major world leaders around the globe. So he's definitely making progress that way. But yes, the key is he's telling them that there is a hope, a future, that they can be unique, that the world has hope if they just keep the focus on Christ.
Yeah, and also being savvy. He's also addressed, I believe, the youth respect to social media and looking for social media influencers, and I think that's a really great idea. Now, similar to his namesake, Pope Leo has been vigilant in addressing the challenges of recent technological advances and leading the Church in the digital age. Why has the Pope brought this center stage? Is it a sense of his age and his prior experience of being an American?
Yeah, he'll turn 70 next month, but seems to be very savvy. You mentioned AI. He's brought that to the forefront. In fact, his namesake, even choosing the name Leo, is tied to AI, surprisingly, because it was Leo XIII, who I think was one of the greatest popes in the history of the church, that led the church through the Industrial Revolution, where there was the first time where they believed mankind was going to be replaced by machines. And that was back in the late 1800s, mid to late 1800s. And so now we see that same concern, where is mankind going to be replaced by now computers? And so he took that namesake to be a leader of the church amidst this during the time of this concern. And so he's addressed this technological age head on, and we definitely think that is something that also appeals to the youth, because whether we like it or not, the youth seem to be entwined in the social media to extreme degrees.
Yes, and to your point about the previous Pope Leo, I believe he's the one who met the devil head on with the St. Michael prayer, St. Michael the Archangel, correct?
It is correct. After hearing a conversation after saying Mass where Satan said he could bring down his church, the Lord said, you think you can? And he granted Satan the power of 100 years. And I think we've seen some of the bad fruit of the last 100 years with abortion and pornography on demand. But our answer is the St. Michael prayer and keeping our faith.